most of his brain is caked like dried porridge on the mirror above the mantelpiece, unaware that, by rights, he should not be seeing anything. The man gently shakes what's left of his head, a little miffed to have been kept waiting. He says,
"Oh, here you are."
On the bed opposite, lying side by side, the three small figures are perfectly still. Their hair is washed and brushed, their nightdresses spotless. They're asleep, that's all. They must be. Though it's strange, of course, that the gunshot hasn't woken them. Wanting attention, the man in the hearth clears his throat and it rattles with blood. It's hard to imagine he has any left, judging by the amount that's dripping down the wall, soaking his vest, creeping across the tiles around his legs. He raises his arm and proffers the gun, dangles it.
"Always better to be sure, and I know how much you want to."
There was hesitation the first few times, but now he just steps forward to calmly take what he's being offered and leans down to press the barrel hard against the killer's forehead. He watches it sink into the tattered white flesh, pushing through into the hollow where the man's brain used to be.
"Belt and braces, Tom,"
the dead man says.
"Belt and braces."
He closes his eyes and happily squeezes the trigger. As he recoils from the explosion, he feels the warm spatter across his cheek, and his ears are singing when he turns to look towards those 6 white feet in a line at the end of the bed. It's odd, of course, because he can barely hear anything, but that voice grows louder suddenly. The music that's still coming from the kitchen below, the song about angels. No odder than anything else, all things considered, but still, he's always aware how strange it is, and how perfect. He's come to suppose that it's simply because the song provides the perfect soundtrack for that moment when the youngest of the girls moans softly, then opens her eyes. When, one by one, the 3 of them sit up and look at him, wide-eyed, blinking, and confused. Thorne did not wake suddenly on mornings like this. There was no longer any gasping or crying out. Rather, it had become like surfacing slowly towards the light from deep under dark water, and everything stayed silent until his stubble rasped against the pillow when he turned his head sharply to see if his wife was next to him. Of course, she wasn't. Better, he thought, that Jan was no longer there, his wife in name only. He was well aware of what she'd have been likely to say, the tone of voice when she said it. He'd have heard concern, obviously, but something else that would have let him know she was weary of it and starting to run out of patience, with all sorts of things.
Same dream?
Not exactly the same.
10 years, Tom.
It's hardly my fault.
More than that.
He got dressed quickly and went downstairs. He turned on the kettle, then the radio, and stuck a couple of slices of bread in the toaster. Grabbing butter and Marmite from the fridge, he found himself humming There Must Be an Angel, though by the time he was pouring milk into his tea, he was singing along tunelessly with those 2 comedians from Fantasy Football League whose songs seemed to be on the radio every 5 minutes. It was starting to get on his nerves, to be honest, and it didn't help that one of them was a bloody Chelsea fan. Thorne wasn't altogether sure that football was coming home, or that 30 years of hurt was likely to end any time soon, but he was undeniably excited about the 3 weeks ahead. Provided other things didn't get in the way, of course. Jan and the wanker she was shacked up with. Murder. He talked to a couple of the lads at work, tried to switch his shifts around so he could watch England v Switzerland in the opening match of the tournament that afternoon, but his DI was having none of it. Thorne had done his best not to look too annoyed, but he was sure it was because the man was Scottish. He guessed the miserable arsehole would be rooting for Switzerland anyway. If things were miraculously quiet, there was always the possibility of nipping round the corner to the Oak, watching the game in there. He could find a radio, worst came to the worst. By then, he might have stopped touching a hand to his cheek to wipe away spatter that wasn't there, and the smell he imagined was clinging to him might have faded a little. Not that it mattered much.